especially since Blanche is here, I have to say it's a great day to be a Rotarian.
Oh, yeah.
And,
thank you.
it's actually 2 weeks in a row. I had to go grab my flag. First order of business, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll try and get my flag up here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, and stand one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all. Not exactly in sync, but we well. I think at this point, if you're not already muted, please mute so we minimize any kind of background noise. And now, there, I just realized I was muted, so I'm unmuted. I'm going to call on Richard if I could, and Richard, if you can unmute and introduce your two guests.
I am pleased to have two guests today. First is Randall Scott. He's the Senior Development Officer for the Washburn University Foundation. And Ray Mackless, who used to live in Overland Park. He's a Washburn grad, an Alpha Delta with me, but he lives in Hilton Head, South Carolina, and Ray is also a Rotarian. He was a Rotarian in Overland Park, and he's a Rotarian in Hilton Head. So I'm pleased that Ray is joining us.
Thank you, Richard. A couple of announcements this evening, and it was in the weekly email, but we do have another meeting with the Rotary Club of Harlem. They have a panel discussion, and it starts at 6 o'clock. There is an Eventbrite link. You have to go to Eventbrite, then you register, then you will get an email, which I think then provides you a link to join the meeting this evening. So looking forward to that. A couple other announcements before we get to our speaker. Want to remind everybody to vote in the August 4 primary. The last day to request a mail-in ballot is July 28th, so that's coming up quickly. Early voting is already taking place both this week and next week at the election office, and actually also on Monday the 3rd, the day before the election, only until noon. So if you want to take advantage of that, you have this week and next week. And of course, you can vote on August 4 at your designated polling location. A reminder, we mentioned it before, poll workers are needed. So that was in last week's email. There's a phone number you can call and ask for, and I forget, I think it's Jane, but I might be wrong on that. In any event, if you're interested in doing that, and if you do it, please keep track of your hours. We'd like to track our community service hours. And lastly, please complete the census. The deadline was extended. I believe it was July 31. I think it is now October 31. But everybody needs to fill out their census if they have not already done so. With that, I'm going to ask Blanche to introduce our speaker. And has Blanche been unmuted, or is unmuted? And I do have a plan B if we have to do that.
Can you hear me?
I can now, thank you.
Introduce our speaker for the day. President Jerry Farley has served as president of Washburn University since 1997. And if you have driven by the campus, you'll see many changes that have occurred, including new academic programs, reinvigoration of a vibrant student life program, construction of 6 major new buildings, and extensive renovation of many other buildings and all classrooms. President Farley holds a bachelor's, master's, and PhD, all from the University of Oklahoma. He is a CPA and has been president and chair of the board of several state and national professional organizations. He has authored or co-authored numerous articles and books in his field, not-for-profit finance and accounting. President Farley has served on several local and state boards for United Way, American Red Cross, the American Cancer Society, Boy Scouts, the Kansas Society of CPAs, Heartland Visioning, state and local chambers of commerce, and Economic Development Corporation, and including Go Topeka. He's past chair of the Topeka Chamber of Commerce. He serves on board of directors for the Security Benefits Funds Board and Core First Bank. He was inducted into the Topeka Business and Oklahoma Higher Education Halls of Fame. And of course, most importantly, he is a Rotary Paul Harris Fellow. In 2016, he was named Distinguished Kansan of the Year by the Native Sons and Daughters of Kansas. We are honored to have as our speaker today, President Jerry Farley, Washburn University. Hello? Is everybody there?
We are, but we need to get Dr. Farley unmuted.
Oh, good. I thought.
No, we're
Okay,
good now, I
that means they
think.
didn't. That means they didn't hear.
I don't know how it has a mind of its own sometimes. Well, thank you, Blanche. That introduction was longer than my remarks. And Blanche was on the Board of Regents when I came to Washburn. And she says that she voted for me.
I did.
Yeah, she just says it, I think. It's been good. She's a delight to work with, and she just works her head off, as you guys know, when she was an official with the Rotary. So we're delighted to have her here today, and thanks for saying that. Also, you mentioned Randall Scott is here somewhere in all of these many photographs. Randall's been with the university a long time. He has been helping create relationships with alumni and with friends of the university, and has helped raise an awful lot of money for Washburn. People just like to be around Randall. In fact, yesterday, I just said earlier, I was with him, I think, was it twice yesterday or the day before, or 3 times? I don't know, but it's good. And he is with the foundation and the Alumni Association, and he has this last year participated in the business of the foundation, and we had a great year in raising money. We raised over $13 million this year. Last year, I think we had between 11 and maybe 12 million. And so even in a time when we have all of these problems swirling around us, he and his colleagues have done a great job in helping people that want to help Washburn. And then finally, the only other person I see on the screen here from Washburn is Eric Grossich. He's Vice President for Student Life. When Blanche said that one of the things that we did some time ago was try to change the environment for students that came to Washburn. Try to do something different for them. We had drifted over a number of years. Nothing wrong with this, but we just drifted into being basically a commuter campus. And if we wanted to expand that and have more or less a traditional educational experience for those persons that wanted, we were creating this student life, and we had one person before Eric, but Eric's been here now. Is it 4 years or 5 years? Yeah, 4 years. Okay, and he has taken us a lot further than we thought we could. He's done a great job for us. Fun to work with him. As a matter of fact, the executive officers of the university, and I've never worked with a better group than the ones that we have now. Not disparaging any of the people that were here on the staff before, but now we have a group that just is really outstanding, fun to work with. They've got great ideas, and more importantly, they do the work, and I don't have to. So at any rate, I thought I would talk a little bit today about a couple of different topics. One is a lot of people are questioning whether or not a college education, a baccalaureate degree, is worth it or not. And I'll come back around in a few minutes to talk about that. But as you well know, I'm sure all of you better than I do, know that the relationship between Washburn and Topeka has been from the very beginning. We were founded in 1865, and I think what was Topeka, 1856 or something, I think. And we had a great relationship. And that endures today, as a matter of fact. And the same things that happened 155 years ago with the relationship between Topeka and Washburn is there today, and that is that we provide the educated workforce at whatever level it is. The educated workforce, we provide that for Topeka. We want students to find jobs, and all of you that are involved with the business here in town, you want students to have a job here in town. We want that, and we work very hard to try to make that happen. Now, there were some other things that the early pioneers that came through here that they wanted to do, and part of those things were to prove that you deserve to be a city of the first class here in Kansas. You had to have certain accoutrements, and one of those was you had to have a sense of place and sense of this is a fun place to be, and that is what we still try to do today. The quality of life and the quality of place makes an awful lot of difference, and we try to imbue those kind of ideas with our students from the day they walk on campus. It's not just to go to school, but it's learn how to be a great citizen, and we try to teach them how great Topeka is. In fact, we have more graduates of Washburn University that live in Shawnee County, surrounding areas here, than any other school in the state, even the bigger schools on either side of us. We have more of the college graduates here than anyone. Well, maybe except for Andy Tompkins, since he's been president of I don't know how many universities now here in the state of Kansas. I know you missed the good old days of creationism and evolution yesterday when they were just talking about education. But anyway, you're looking good today, Andy. It's difficult to grow a business today, and maybe you can't grow a business today unless you have skilled workers, skilled people to take jobs, and we have the opportunity to help with that. But Topeka has helped us over the years as well. All of the many recessions that we had that we don't even remember unless you're an economist, back in the 1800s, and the Great Depression, World War I, World War II, and we had a number of different things that didn't go so well for us. We ran out of money back in those early days, and so in 1941, citizens of Topeka said, that's our university. And we became what's called the municipal university since then. And that's been a great relationship. And there are a few others around the country that have that in their name, like New York City University. But we are one of a very small crowd that can boast of being a municipal university. And back then, the programs that we had, the education programs that we had then, were basically a liberal arts program. We call it now an arts and science program, but a liberal arts program. But it became clear pretty quickly after founding in 1865. In 1903, we created a law school. And it grew and has grown into the great product that we offer from that law school, and that is attorneys that want to stay in Kansas and they want to practice law. Our reputation from the law school is you get a great legal education, but you also learn something about Kansas and make you want to stay here. We have more lawyers that are Kansas graduates, University of Washburn University graduates than all the other law schools in the country that they're practicing here in the state of Kansas, and we're really proud of that. But then we needed certain specialized skills, and some of those skills created schools that were freestanding on our campus. In the 1960s and 1970s, we created a number of schools. We created a business school, created a nursing school, allied health school, and it was an addition to the law school and the overall arts and science program at the time. And 12 years ago, we branched out one more time and brought into Washburn, the Washburn Institute of Technology, which has been, I hope that you would agree with this, been a phenomenal success. But don't forget that skills come in different ways. And we think that the agreements between us and Washburn Tech make both of us stronger, and we can serve the whole community this way. If you need accountants and CPAs or nurses, or lawyers or welders, you can come to Washburn and get it. It also made a big difference in the way Washburn was viewed when we took Washburn Tech. Some people look askance at technical education, and some people don't think that it is it's what a lot of students need, but it is. It's something that those students that don't want to get a baccalaureate degree, that they have a pathway, and we made certain that was the case. Now, it's not that I'm criticizing at all what 501 did while they were managing Call Area Technical School. They did a great job, but it was a different world now, and we wanted to expand that, and so we brought Washburn Tech in as an affiliated organization of Washburn University. We did that primarily so we could continue to get the funding from the state of Kansas. But instead of students after high school graduation, I've heard this story so many times that in past years people would ask them, well, what are you going to do? You're out of high school now. You got a job here in town. What are you going to do? You going to university? Many of them didn't know, but they didn't want to say that. And so they would come to Washburn, but they didn't really enjoy that part of it, which was the baccalaureate program. And so now that they are a part of Washburn, and we did this very deliberately, we urge them when somebody asks them what school they're going to, they say Washburn University, because that's what it is. It's just another one of our academic programs, and we've made certain that we can transfer credits between Washburn Tech and Washburn University if a student wants to continue and get an associate's degree, if they want to continue to get a baccalaureate degree or a master's degree, they can make that happen. And that's been a real success story of all the things that I think Washburn and our Board of Regents and others are proud of, is that Washburn Tech and what happened out there. And just look around, like last year before last, when JADO helped us with funding for a new facility on the east side of town. We call it Washburn Tech East. It has been more successful than we thought. We thought we had to have about a 3-year runway to make that work. It's past its break-even point after about a year. The first year was a little difficult because the contractor didn't finish on time. But for the last year or so, we have far exceeded what we thought would happen out there at Tech, and many of those students over to Washburn. Now, as I started with today, there are a number of people who have a little bit of concern that we have too many baccalaureate and too many college-educated people. We don't need all of that. Well, that may be right, but most of those people that say that, they got theirs. They just are not branching out and going to bring everybody else in. Because I hope you have learned in your distinguished careers that you can't have too many educated persons around you. You can't have too many smart persons around you. And that's what we try to do. And we start with that basic underlying arts and science general education program that we have. Because what we want to do is for the students that leave here, while they're in college, when they leave here, we want them to be critical thinkers. Don't just wait for the next ad on television. And boy, aren't there a lot of ads on television now for political leaders? Wow. Surely you can find somebody you like in that whole group of people that we have there now. And we try to make certain, though, that students can think on their own. We try to train them how to do that. We encourage them at every turn. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. The second thing that we try to teach them is communication skills, both verbal and written skills, and they are exceptionally required now abilities for students when they graduate from us. We want them to know something about analytic reasoning. Data and big data is really almost everything these days. And we're trying to help them with that. We help them with problem-solving skills. We help them with ethical judgment. We try to teach them a little bit about how to think creatively and how to be innovative. And from what I can tell, that matches right up with whether you want to be a chemist, whether you want to be a nurse, you want to be an accountant, you want to be an attorney. You need all those skills to make that happen. Across the country, though, there's a real challenge with education. Back when I started going to college, Susan tells me not to say this, but I had no idea what college was. Didn't have a clue. Because the little town I grew up in had 1,100 souls if you don't count domestic animals. And I didn't even know that the teachers in the high schools were college educated. But I went to college and got lucky and graduated, and then I haven't left since then. But when you look at the kind of skills that we all need, when you look at the kind of environment that we're trying to create, we need as many of those people as we can, as we can produce. But who benefits from that? Who benefits from having those people that are educated in our communities? Well, we all do. There's no question about it that we benefit from that. But when I started the school, much as some of you, I can tell just by looking, I paid $6 a credit hour, and the university paid all the rest of it by the state. The university was paid by the state for the rest of it. Not so today. In fact, when you ask the question, who benefits, the next question usually is asked is who pays? Who pays for it? And so many states, and it's not something that they're necessarily proud of in the legislature, but they have had a lot of difficult decisions to make. And we have reduced the amount of funding coming from the state significantly. Now, for Washburn, we've never received very much money from the state. I tried to convince Andy Tompkins he should have given us more. If he would have given us more, we could have hired him on our faculty out here. But sorry, Andy, you're just right here in front of me, though. I can't see you any other way. And Jim Ogle, you're laughing about that. You know that. But who benefits? All of us benefit. No question about it that we all benefit. When I visit with the major corporations here in town, and I talked with the CEOs and asked them, what do you look for in a new hire? What are you thinking about? What can we do better to give you someone that is going to come and help your company? Well, what they say is, well, you're giving us people that are going to replace the ones that are here now. You're going to be the next CEOs. And we think that's going to be the case. I go downstairs, though, and I talk with the people that are in HR, and they give me a little different story. They need somebody that can produce right now. If they're a chemist, they have to know something about chemistry. If they're an accountant, they got to know something about that. If they're working for a law firm, they need to know something about how to make that work. And so we want to satisfy them as well as satisfy all of the job needs of manufacturers here in town and other businesses here in town. I already mentioned tech ed. One of the things, as I said, I think that 501 did a great job at Call Area Technical School, but we wanted to send it in a little different direction, and that we wanted to make it more of a job training opportunity and skill training opportunities for those businesses here in town. And we have advisory boards in just about everything we do on campus, but in tech you can really see how that benefits it, because tech can turn on a dime. If the businesses don't need the skills that we are training for, we can change that. We can change it in the middle of a semester sometimes and add things and subtract things from that to make that happen. And that gives them ready access to very skilled people really quickly. And we're a little slower in moving on a university campus, but we still do. We have advisory boards that tell us what kind of things all of us in our businesses need to have. Let's see here. Now, maybe you've noticed, I suspect some of you hadn't had to endure this, but maybe you've noticed that some people in universities are maybe a little bit arrogant. Okay, maybe they have a little self-centered on occasion, particularly when it comes to their university from which they graduated. Well, we looked at it and said that doesn't have to happen. The tech can produce as many people and give as much added value to our community as does a university. In fact, we do every other or every 4 or 5 years survey to determine what contribution we make and what contribution at university and what contribution is made by tech school. And then we see what kind of skills they have and see what kind of income that they will get. What is the value of that degree? And more, some of the best paying jobs come out of Washburn Tech, and we try to help them along with that. But even people that don't have the same opportunities for large salaries when they graduate, when they leave us, they have a lot better health. They don't smoke, they don't abuse drugs or alcohol. They have fewer problems with people that they work with. They don't need social services from the community as much, and they have stable training for their children, and they get a good rate of return. For the rate on investment for a university graduate, generally speaking, is a 16% bump in what their salary can be, and they will earn over their lifetime. They will earn $1 million more than if they didn't have that and only had a high school degree. If you have a tech school degree, you have about 13% rate of return on your investment. Phenomenal numbers that we're showing here. Phenomenal numbers that we're talking about. So we're happy about that. I think we're doing a pretty good job of it. In the community, you see us around all the time. If you didn't know, we are partnering with Pine Ridge and with our nursing program and the hospitals here in town to provide on-site health services out at Pine Ridge. We have a law clinic in our law school that serves hundreds of people a year in various kinds of things. We have statewide and local programs that we support across all of Kansas. And one of the things that's really fun to do is go out to Tech Campus. About 3-4 times a year, they completely renovate an automobile. And we have a lot of partners here in town that donate the automobile to us and then give us parts that we need to completely restore it. And we call it recycle rides. And we have done 27, 28 of those recycle rides. We partner with the United Way. They identify people who would be deserving of having one of those, and we've had a phenomenal success with that. Graduates get jobs. We were just talking yesterday, some of the salaries, and this surprised me a few years ago when some of the salaries that we're paying for students that graduate from tech and students that graduate from, say, nursing school or business school, pretty close to the same. And the debt load that our students leave with, those that have debt when they leave, nationally it's about 27%. Now, that the rate that they owe, I said it's percent, $27,000 they owe when they leave. Now, if you're back on the East Coast and you're going to some of those private schools that are quite phenomenal themselves, but if you're there, the costs are dramatically different. A social work person on the East Coast can easily rack up $100,000 worth of debt, and that's not good for anyone. In Kansas, our average is about $27,000 debt, and in Washburn, we're about $23,000 in debt for students that have debt, and that's quite a number, as a matter of fact. Now, just a little bit quickly here. No one gave me the hook yet. Who's the hook on here? Blanche, are you the one? Maybe. I'll finish pretty quickly. You may have noticed that we have a pandemic underway. I didn't even know what a pandemic was. I knew what an epidemic was, but we've got a pandemic underway, and it is impacting us dramatically, as a matter of fact. When this all started, I turned to Eric Grospich to lead a campaign to coordinate a committee that would move us off the campus and get things set up so we could still teach students. And we did. We didn't. No student was left behind on this. And we did it with something we call remote learning, remote teaching. But he was the one that led that to make sure that students knew they had services still here on campus, make sure they knew the offices were open, talk with all of our faculty and staff and coordinate all of that. But little did he know that doesn't end, because now he's coordinating all of that to move people back onto campus, and when we will do it and how we will do it. And we just talked about that for about an hour, more than an hour this morning, probably about the same thing yesterday afternoon. It's a huge task. It's an unbelievable task. And everyone wants their questions answered immediately. What does this mean for me? And how is it going to affect my workplace? And am I going to be able to maintain my health and come back to work? And if you're a student, are you going to be able to come back and be free of the likelihood of getting a pandemic? Now we have a few of our students who couldn't get back, and those were international students. Last year we had probably about 350 or something like that, Eric, I believe. This year we're going to have, I hope, 200 that we can get back in. You saw yesterday or this morning that our squabble with Kansas, they're closing. The U.S. is closing one of the embassies down in Houston. Well, that would be where many of our students would go to get a visa to come back to the university in the future. We don't know where that's going to go. Last year before last, we had about 40 Nepalese students from Nepal, Kathmandu. I love to say that, Kathmandu. That just sounds exotic, doesn't it? And when they went back to come to school this past fall, a year ago, out of the 50 we presented to them for a visa, we got 15. And the embassy couldn't tell us why. His U.S. embassy was issuing the visas. Couldn't tell us why. I wrote to Pat Robertson. He put his staff on it, and I got a letter back saying because. There's a problem. We don't know what it is, but there's a problem. So we're going to have to work hard to get some of those international students back involved with this over the next year or so. Now, for the physical facilities, have any of you driven down 21st Street between Washburn Avenue and McVicker? What the devil is that big white thing that's sitting in there? If my father were alive today and we still owned a farm, he would look at that and said, "That's the best hay barn I've ever seen." And let me tell you, it is one big hay barn, but it's going to be a showplace for Washburn and for the city of Topeka. And all of you, tell people that are looking for some kind of a facility like that, like that we have down there. The Visiting Bureau, used to be called Visiting Bureau, they thought we could bring in several $1 million a year from events that we would rent that building and bring tourists to town. And it doesn't surprise me if we could do that, but that's going to be one great building. It's beautiful, really, it's for such a big building. Second thing, I'll share with you, is Seaward in here from the newspaper? Okay, I said you won't tell them. You won't tell them. Tonight, we're asking the Board of Regents to authorize the university to proceed to finish the architectural plans for a new law school. And that's been a project we've been working on for a long time. I know there's some difference of opinion about where it perhaps would have been best placed, but we thought it was going to have to be on the Washburn campus. And it's going to be located at the corner of Washburn Avenue and 21st Street. And I've seen some of the artist drawings of it. It's going to be a spectacular building there. And we will authorize tomorrow morning the architects to proceed through working drawings so that we can bid that this next March, and that we can then have it built by school starting in 2021, fall of 2021. We've had a lot of support for that. We've raised, and where did Randall go? Randall's raised a lot of money for that building, and I think we'll top out at over 13 million, largest fundraising we ever had on the campus for a construction project, and they will finish that up in the drawing stage, and we'll move in, and as I said, in August 22. So, all right, sorry, took too long today, and it looks like, yeah, it definitely took too long. Anyone want to ask me a question? I think you can unmute yourself, and unless everybody talks at once, I'll be glad to respond to any questions you have.
Dr. Farley, Mike Worswick. I appreciated the comments on the foreign student challenges. What kind of financial impact will that have on the budget this year?
Well, that's a good path for me to go down. Right now we are projecting about an $8 million shortfall in revenues, and then $8 million in accompanying expenditures. We've put things in place to cut the expenditures so it matches the revenue. So that we think we can do. We've made some very difficult decisions with budgets on campus, and have planned that we can offer students a way to continue with their education. Some of these students are wanting to graduate, by the way, come December. And others are on a graduation pathway that'll take them 2 or 3 more years, but we wanted to make sure they had that opportunity. So we have made some very conservative estimates of what kind of revenue we'll have, which will dictate how much we can not cut the budget by. We're looking for about a 10% reduction in our state funds, but we get very little state funds as it is. We're looking for about a 15% reduction in enrollment for a variety of reasons. We're projecting a 5% reduction in sales tax, but I hope that by next Wednesday I'll see that turn around a little bit. And I'm hoping personally that sales tax, because the economy here in Topeka, will be flat next year. We had a modest tuition increase of about 2.8 to 2.9%. And all those things put back together, we can continue doing what we are doing. The one area where we have some concern is, and it's everybody's concern around the country, and it's under Dr. Grossvich's area, is residential halls, room and board. When we asked students not to come back this past spring, right after spring break, we had to refund $1,100,000 back to the students for the unused room after spring break last year. So my concern is going to be how does that all fall together this coming year? We're doing pretty good with students that come in that want to live in the residence halls. I was fearful that some parents would not want them to live in residence halls, but some that may be the case. But we have a number that they want a roommate and live in the residence hall. So that one will be one that I have to watch, because it's only funded by the revenues that we charge for room and board. But I'm optimistic about the fall. I think actually I was probably too conservative in my revenue projections, but we'll see here pretty early in the semester. We're about 49 days away from the census date that the Kansas Board of Regents establishes on how many students that we have. And I'm hopeful by then that we'll have a little upturn in the number of students that come. Another question.
This is Ray Macklis, Dr. Farley.
Hadn't seen you in a while.
Yeah, well,
you moved to the East Coast, I hear.
I moved to the East Coast, so.
Well, as soon as the pandemic goes away, call me and I'll come see you.
Okay. So my question is, I have a daughter-in-law who's on the DeSoto School Board, and I have a 14, 13, and 11-year-old granddaughters that work. They go to school in the DeSoto, and they're with what happened yesterday with the State Board of Education. How does KTWU fit in on helping the public school districts throughout the state of Kansas? Because Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas just announced they're going to be online education. Is KTWU gearing up to help the various school districts throughout the state of Kansas?
Not in the way that you know KTWU today. And I know years ago KTWU was broadcasting coursework over Channel 11. But that hasn't been the modality that most people are using. Now, when you come to Washburn this fall, some courses will be taught in person, face to face. Okay, some persons will be taught via remote learning and remote teaching, where the faculty member and the students are just like we are here today. Okay, and we can see everybody that's in the class, and the professor will hopefully be more eloquent than I am, and we will teach students by that remote learning. And then we have something that's we call hybrid. Some of it will be in person, in front of people, and some of it will be remote learning, or it may even be actual internet courses, but probably not. Internet courses have not been that popular across the country during this pandemic. But those three modalities, we've got 5 actually, but those 3 modalities will take care of all the students that want to come be with us. So those grandchildren that you have, I'll send you my business card and how to enroll. Get them out here to a great education in Topeka, Kansas.
Do we have any other questions?
Hey, Jerry, it's Roger Ashelman. Good afternoon to you.
Hello, Roger. Sorry I wasn't with you this week.
Hey, okay, man. Do you have an approximate number of traditional student graduates who stay in the Topeka area?
Eric, help unmute that and help me out on that. How many stay in the local area?
I'm trying to pull up the number right now, Dr. Farley, from our career services website. I want to just say a lot, but that doesn't answer your question very well. Give me 1 second. You answer something else, I'll find it.
Okay, we can do that.
I have a question.
Anyone
Sure.
has?
How will academics and extracurricular activities be affected by everything on campus this year?
Okay, this was the nightmare I had last night, in that Eric has every day. What we're going to require is that everyone that sits on the Washburn campus has to have their masks on. Okay, the students have to have their mask on, right? You have to have your separation, your physical separation from one another. You can only have so many people with a group. All those rules that we will put in place and encourage people to follow them, and indeed will require them to follow them. But what was your question? I forgot what it was.
So the question, Dr. Farley, was about how academics and student life will be different.
He's
in athletics.
And athletic. Let me come back to athletic in a minute, because that's a big issue. Eric is the vice president for student life and can give you a better answer than me.
I'm gonna leave the athletics question to Dr. Farley. So real quick, most of our students will have options to take classes either face-to-face in a hybrid environment, which means that some of them will be online, some will be face-to-face, and then some will be completely remote. And I do want to be clear on the difference between remote education, which means that they're logging in at the same time the teacher's in front of the classroom teaching, versus what we think about as online, which means Stan logs in whenever Stan feels like logging in, kind of a piece. That's a big shift. Our students will be able to choose, which I think is important. So if for whatever reason they feel uncomfortable being in a class, they can choose to do that online or do that remotely and continue to move that forward. And so most of our classes will have some online or some face-to-face component, or I guess about half of our classes will have some face-to-face component. The big changes if you come to campus is all of our meeting spaces are now classrooms. So Washburn A and B that many of you have been into is all A classrooms, because we've got to maintain the 6 feet social distancing and do all of those other pieces. BTAC and Constitution Hall is a classroom. And so people will be able to spread and do that. And we're actually taking a floor offline in the library, moving all the books and making that a classroom for 80. Which is a primary need for our nursing programs and our health professions, because they have to have face-to-face, hands-on kinds of mixes to all of this. And so,
how are you going to wind all those students around student life activity on campus?
That will be I think we're going to do a lot of student life, just like Stan and team are doing here. We're going to have to engage students electronically. We're encouraging students to bring lawn chairs to campus so they can go sit and cop a squat in the courtyard and be able to spread out and do those things. Right now,
that's great.
Yeah, right now we are trying to keep our student recreation center open as one of the locations that people can kind of gather within social distancing. The key things is all of you think about it's social distancing, it's masking, and it's hygiene. I mean, we are just trying to drive those messages home as hard and strong as we can through this process.
And we'll have sororities that are open, I think. I mean, they may change their mind before. We'll have fraternities that are open, and there will be activities. It just won't be as big crowd type activities as we would have in some past years. Now, as for athletics, boy, I don't know what's going to happen. I had a meeting a week ago today, I think, and MIAA changed some of the rules and who we would be playing. NCAA made everyone take at least two football games off of the playlist for this coming year. But the thing that really is difficult to imagine, and Eric, you may be able to help me with this, but I think you can't imagine what happens if we're going to play football down at Pittsburgh State, and Thursday before the Saturday game, they have 20 people come down with the virus. Well, we're not going to drive over there and do that. The same thing would be people that come here. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. When it happened overnight, literally, NCAA, no more athletics last spring, we had a busload of people going down to Pittsburgh for the competition. We had some tennis players going to Kansas City. So, and we brought them back, got them on the telephone and brought them back. So that's going to be yet to come. Will be athletics.
Well, I just want to say I'm the Vice President of Development at SLI, and your students are such amazing partners for us, especially the baseball team. They every fall come and do a softball cookout with our clients, and they help at Festival of Trees as well as one of the fraternities. So we really appreciate, I know all of Topeka appreciates you, but I just wanted to say thank you for encouraging your students to be so much more in our community.
Well, thanks. And the students are great. They enjoy getting to know people in the community, and this really gives them hands-on. This is what you're going to be expected of you when you have a family, when you move to a new house here in Topeka. Be involved with the community, do things with the community. We even though we may not, one of the options is that some of the fall sports could be moved to the spring. By then, maybe we'll have the virus under control in some fashion. But even if we don't, all of those athletes, we're going to recognize their scholarship this next year, and the NCAA will give them another year of eligibility, I'm certain. So it's going to be tough, but I think we're going to treat the students well. Other questions?
We are almost 1 o'clock, and that is kind of our hard stop.
Okay.
But truly appreciate it, Dr. Farley. I'm a proud graduate. I got my law degree in '84, and it served me well for 20 years of practice in the corporate world, and I had an itch to do something different, so I went back and picked up my MBA in 2003, and it was shortly thereafter I bought a local business as the best decision I ever made, because I kind of had my fill of the legal world. But in any event, I greatly appreciate
it. We love lawyers. Come on.
Yeah, and Washburn is truly the crown jewel of Topeka. So thank you very much.
Thanks for saying that.
Yeah. Wanted to mention our next week program is going to be one of our own, Karen Weichert with Midland Care. That's another organization that's experienced a great deal of change over the years. And so we look forward to that. It's always enjoyable to have one of our own members be a presenter. And one favor to ask, if you've not already done so, please watch that video about the polio project in India. It's 15 minutes. It's a wonderful documentary film, very moving. So it'll be time well spent. With that, let's unmute, and we will finish up with the 4 or 4.5 way test, as the case may be. of the things you think they are doing? Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And will it be fun?
Will it be fun? Okay.
Thank you, everybody, and we will see you next Thursday, if not sooner. Take care.